Hello, my name is Elizabeth Rodriguez,
My name is Ruben Hernandez.
and we'll be presenting a presentation on the three-way symbiotic relationship in whale sharks.
Okay, to get some context on what this study is about, we have to understand what symbiosis is. And symbiosis is when two species are living together or they share a close interaction. And the three main type of symbiotic relationships are parasitic, where one species, my bad, is benefited and the other is harmed. Commensal, where one species is benefited and the other is not affected. And mutualistic, where both species are benefited. And in this specific interaction, the host would be the endangered whale shark, which you can see on the top and bottom, the big looking fish. And then the symbionts are the Echiniidae, which is also known as the remora, which is in the top, the little fish that are around it, and they even have a little adhesive to the left, that picture, that helps it stick to it. And then the whale shark copepods, which is on the bottom, like those brown splotches on it. And previous research has shown, or like the general consensus is that the remora have a mutualistic relationship with the whale shark because they get access to free transportation and the same kind of food, and they eat parasites off the whale shark, so it's kind of like a cleaning. And then the copepods, research has shown that they have a mixture of all three depending on the microbiota. So if the microbiota is harmful, they ingest it, and then the whale shark is benefited. If the microbiota is good for the whale shark and they ingest it, that's harmful. And then if the microbiota does not affect the whale shark, then the whale shark is not affected and that benefits the copepods. So it's a mixture of the three relationships.
And so the objectives that we were looking in this, that we're looking to looking in this study was the understanding the nature of these interactions, whether they're mutualistic, commensal, or parasitic, basically confirming what we saw in previous research. We were also trying to evaluate the degree of host specificity that each symbiote had to the whale shark host. With that, our research question was, when developing conservation efforts, as opposed to only focusing on the host, should symbiotic relationships and the degree of host specificity of the symbiotes also be considered? With this question, the researchers hypothesized that if the host in a symbiotic relationship requires conservation and the symbiotes involved, such as the Echinidea and the copepods, have a high degree of host specificity to that host, then they should also be included in conservation efforts.
So their experimental design was purely observational, so it was qualitative, and it was centered around um, the interaction and the feeding between the euphysage, which is the prey of the whale shark, and the whale shark. And basically, the euphysids, what they do is that they gather at night to the surface, and they're all close together. So that's when the whale shark comes to feed on it, right? And in this case, we're just they were just trying to recreate that, the researchers, and they installed a light on an anchored ship to lure the euphysids, right? And then from there, the whale shark was lured in because that's their main food source. And from there, the researchers were able to collect the data and record the whale shark with a GoPro. And this happened over the span of 5 nights to ensure accurate results.
And so the results, we're basically seeing that it aligns with what we've seen in previous research, where we saw the echinids, such as the remora and the starterfish, feeding on the same food sources as the host. And we also saw that they benefit from free transportation via their specialized adhesive disc, which you can kind of see how they're like stuck to the top of the whale shark here. In this specific case, we did not see that they ate the copepods that we see here around the cavity. In order to confirm this, we would actually have to do dissections and observe the stomach content. But regardless of that, we were also able to see that they able to detach and reattach themselves to their host. Regarding the copepods, we saw that they were around the oral cavity, as you can see in this image, and that they gain access to transportation much like the remora. Regarding food, they were likely eating the microbiota found on the whale shark skin.
Okay, so again, as previous research has shown, the results that we had gotten aligned very well because the remora had mutualistic relationship with the host, again, as both parties, both sides benefited. And with the copepods, it was the same situation where it was a mixture and of the three relationships that are possible, and it all came down to the microbiota that was there, whether it was harmful, beneficial, or not affecting the whale shark.
And then evaluating the host dependentness. In this specific study, we saw that echnids do not develop host-specific interactions, meaning that their survival is not deeply connected to their interaction with the whale shark. While they do benefit from this interaction and they're unlikely to stop actually interacting with whale sharks due to the benefits that they get from it, they do not explicitly need it to survive. For the copepods, on the other hand, we did see that they had a high degree of host specificity, meaning that their survival is linked to their interaction with the whale shark. We should also start to consider the possibility of labeling these whale shark copepods as endangered along with their hosts, due to the fact that they may be facing the same dangers as their hosts, including a decline in their population sizes. Again, ignorance of host-specific symbiotes could be detrimental to conservation efforts, as it can result in one species being preserved while the other is inadvertently being negatively affected.
Okay, so in conclusion, these symbiotic relationships, they should be, carefully explored because if we keep on recreating these things in nature, such as, luring the whale shark with the giant light, that's going to be disrupting, their natural pattern, and they're going to be more prone to now waiting for that big light, right, to come feed when we're not always going to be there to shine a big light for them to feed. So it can kind of mess with their feeding patterns and their behavior, and that can lead to more drastic consequences, in their own respective ecosystem. So that should just be, explored sustainability and with a conservational mindset. And it's important to understand the interactions and the degree of host specification to further aid conservation efforts because the host is very important, the whale shark, right? But the symbionts can also become endangered and can also become affected, right? Because the copepods, they are host specific, meaning that they rely on the host, right, for survival. And if the host is endangered and the host, their population is going down vastly, they're gonna have trouble finding a suitable and proper host, which also leads to the extinction or potential danger of the copepods. So that's why it's very important to keep that in mind. And again, the study confirmed that the remora had a mutualistic relationship with their host, and the copepods had a relationship that was a combination of all three types. And, you know, on my last point, it's kind of what I said before again, that it's very important to conserve the whale shark and to keep these symbionts in mind as well because they can be facing the same exact danger. And thank you guys.
Thank you.